I was in the very fortunate position to play Homeworld 3 not only on Gamescom but also a week later at home and try out the new game mode War Games in Alpha. And I'm here to show you and tell you about the sound, the graphics, the new mode and the AI, how they're behaving. Let's dive right into that. Blackbird Interactive is a very cool, interesting studio with just the recent releases of Crossfire Legion, for example, and Hardspace Shipbreaker. They're now working on the new iteration of the Homeworld saga, Homeworld 3. And Homeworld 3 did now introduce a new game mode called War Games, which is basically a PvE co-op roguelite multiplayer mode. So this is a very interesting thing. First, I want to talk about the audio in Homeworld 3, because even though we do not see the campaign or whatsoever, we can now, or we could experience now the game mode and how Homeworld 3 actually plays, how it looks, and more especially how it sounds, because that's so interesting. When you're finally through the initial, oh my god, I'm so overwhelmed, everything is working in 3D, I don't know what the hotkeys do, and you finally play the game like seamlessly, and you know the hotkeys, you're giving your guys commands whatsoever, you start listening to the game. And I started to hear things that were not happening on screen, but the voices, the radio chatter actually told me about. And the radio chatter is just such a great addition to Homeworld, because whenever something of interest happens or something that you should know about, you get radio chatter about it. Like when I'm at some kind of exploring phase, I want to find the next spot I want to go to, and then I get a radio message, hey, resource controller under fire or something. And you know, oh wow, okay, well, there's something happening that I don't know about. Or you are flying somewhere and you get the radio that your fleet is under attack. So like, oh, fleet's under attack, or engaging fight or whatsoever. You're like, okay, wait, I don't see anything on my screen, so something is going on, but where is it happening? And you start listening to those things. It's not only about commands, it's also like resource depleted, so you know, okay, well, my resource controllers are maybe now flying automatically somewhere else. I should maybe take a look so that they're not going to be shut down while they're flying somewhere else. And you get those radio chatter like everywhere, and when you really start to notice that, you do get a complete different depth of the game, because then all of a sudden you start realizing what's happening outside of your frame, and that's just so great. They did a great job on that, and I really hope that they are even improving it with more chatter and more commands. Maybe throughout the campaign, when there is some point of interest that they see, or they found something that was not there on the radar before. Something like that. The other aspect of audio, the sounds are already good. They're not amazing, they're not bad, they're just simply good. Like, firing weapons does sound appropriate, they have some impact. The explosions, when you're really close, sound massive, so there is an impact with those explosions. I really like that. But once you get away, of course, so the distance to whatever you're looking at is very important for the volume of that sound, of course. So when you're really close, you can hear all these blaster shots, all these railguns, all these explosions whatsoever. That is really nice. And with that, I'm going to talk about the graphics, because when you're close, you see the graphics of those ships really well, and you can get really close. You can focus on every single ship. If it's your ship, if it's an enemy ship, you can focus on everyone and then go like really close and see how the weapon turrets are turning, how the weapons are loading, like a railgun is loading, for example. From the down of a interceptor of some Recon fighters up to frigates, and what did we got? We got battleships also, at least one single battleship, we saw that. They look great when they're shooting. The weapon systems look very, very good, detailed. Though the ship itself, the model, the textures could be better in my opinion. I'm maybe a little bit spoiled with games like X4 Foundations, which have amazing ship designs, especially for the new DLCs. But The details are okay. I mean, we're talking about a strategy game and you get ships en masse, so those all need to be rendered and they look great in masses. There are some issues at the moment with weapons clipping through the hull. That looks a little bit weird, especially for those railgun corvettes that have this front weapon that does some weird angles and stuff like that. I hope this all will get fixed. I mean, we're still looking at a development period of 6 months. And then you also have this nice, gigantic atmosphere with those wreckages you can fly around, or asteroids, or planetary parts, or whatsoever. I don't know what else is coming there. Maybe we'll see a bursted planet. That would be great to look at, with some caves or whatsoever you can fly through. So that looks really, really good. The game introduces ray tracing, but I haven't seen the impact so far of ray tracing. I have seen better and worse ray tracing features. I haven't seen really the impact of lights so far. What I would like to see is actually better lights from explosions that you see on other ships that are also impacting like your surroundings, and maybe even like big shadows that are also impacted by those, like big dynamic shadows and whatsoever on those surfaces around you in your vicinity. That would be great. Doesn't look that good yet. Ray tracing is still a thing I think that they need to refine. I also hope for that to be better, or at least to get better over time. Now the game mode itself, War Games, is actually a try to improve Homeworld 3 to its longevity. So we know that the story campaign will take us, I hope, some time to finish. But after that, when the story campaign is over, you're basically left with just skirmishes in games like that. And here, Homeworld 3 tries to add a new game mode that is giving it a little bit of a different spin, with a PvE co-op roguelite mode where you can actually advance through levels. You can level your account and unlock new features. Those features are called artifacts, and artifacts are basically buffs and debuffs at the same time that are changing how your fleet behaves. And the more you level up with your account, the better you, or the more victories you have in those mode, then you will have more access to those artifacts. You will have more access to starting fleets. You will have more access to features in that mode. When you get an artifact, you always have to choose between 3 of those. So you can choose what's the best option for you at this moment and then choose that one. So you always get with those artifacts a buff and at the same time a debuff. So if you want more damage, you do get less hull points. Or you want to be faster, but you're losing visibility. Stuff like that. So there's always a upside and a downside. I was directly asking the developers from Blackbird if there is an overpower or something, a power that you gain through those levels that will make you just better than people that are just starting out. Because the background of that is, if you are, for example, level 15 and I'm starting a game with you, and I say, hey, you're level 15, you could be carrying me, right? So you have all the powerful skills and whatsoever. But the developers said that will be not the case. Every single one will need to be a good player in those games. And higher levels will not mean that your ships will get overpowered in comparison to someone that just started out. So a level 15 can definitely play with a level 1, and they will both have a great time doing so. And since this is PvE and also co-op, you're both benefiting from that. Artifacts that you get, and you benefit from your body being a little bit maybe more diverse and can be specializing into a specific part. So it's not really carrying, but you have like maybe someone that can specialize a little bit more on some parts, like for example fighting against smaller ships or get resources faster or something like that. And that will help you in your playstyle, so you can focus on something else and make, for example, your frigates better and fight those capital ships, those larger ships. So you will have hopefully a balance through this mode. One thing that I really disliked so far is that in this war game modes, one of the things is it starts extremely fast with just 50 to 60 seconds until your first fight. So you need to start really stressed early, start building ships and going into fights immediately. Otherwise you will lose very fast. And another thing is that enemies tend to spawn really close to your objectives, especially if you have objectives where you need to hold the position, and enemies are spawning really close to you, and the position gets contested immediately, and then you need to retake this position again, like for 45 seconds or 30 seconds or whatever it is in that case. And then enemies are spawning again very close to this objective. That happened for me about once. That happened once, like 5 times in a row, when they were spawning extremely close, flew just a little bit, and then it was contested again. So that's one thing that I really disliked. Another thing before we talk about the AI in total, the UI is good so far. It is a lot. Of course, this is a strategy game. It's 3-dimensional. There's a lot of stuff happening. I was asking why they're not going to do objectives directly on the screen, and instead they're putting it into that gyro. This is the round ball or something that is at the bottom of your screen, which shows you objectives relative to your position right now of the camera. So you're always looking into the right direction. So they don't want to do that on screen because they said there's already so much stuff going on screen, and they don't want to overwhelm the player even more. But one thing that I would like to see is that they give you at least the option to change the UI in ways that you would like to have them. So at the moment, the build menu is always on the right, stuff like the population is always on the left. I would like to change that, and also the gyro is fixed. It's not only fixed in its position, it's also fixed in its size, and especially people, I guess, with a little bit impaired vision, or maybe they will have a hard time looking at that gyro, would like to have it a little bit bigger. So maybe give us just the option to have like at least a menu option to have gyro, small, medium, and big. That would be great. This is just a scaling thing, so I hope that this is easily doable. I hope you see this video. And that will be one of the points that I would like to see. Another thing, now talking about the AI. The AI behaves sometimes weird. I mean, we know that from strategy games, sometimes they're not even attacking you, even though you attack them. Sometimes they're attacking you without you haven't even looked at them. And sometimes, and that's really the thing that bothers me at the moment, is let's get one step back. You have a radar range. And in this radar range, you can see enemies. So enemies outside of that radar range are not visible to you. And in my opinion, I think that should be the same for the enemies. If I am outside of the radar range of enemies, they should not see me. But what happened to me, especially in one of those missions, was one of my frigate was attacking enemies like very far away. Like I would say twice as far as my radar range. Once that frigate was defeated and was destroyed, all those enemies that were fighting that frigate came to my fleet, even though not only I was like twice as far as the radar range, but I was also behind a structural element that should have given me a cover. They just came around the corner and were starting to attack me, although I was so far away and I thought that I was safe. So this is one thing that I don't like so far. We had the same issue with in Xenonauts 2, where the AI could see the entire group, even though they only saw one single person. So after they saw it, they saw the entire group. And that's also happening in Homeworld 3, and that is really an issue. A massive issue with the AI. That needs to be fixed ASAP. So far, I'm really glad to be able to have played Homeworld 3. I do not have access anymore, unfortunately, but we hope that there will be a open beta, maybe. That will be great. I mean, Baldur's Gate 3 made a very good example of how a game is still buyable, even though you showed people already that much stuff. And maybe they are doing the same for Homeworld. I don't know. I can only hope that they're releasing at least 1 or 2 missions at the start or as a demo for people to try it out before they buy the game. So far, what I have seen is very promising. It seems like a very, very good strategy game. I love Homeworld. I love the space game genre. And I really like to see this game in my library as soon as possible. So far, we only know February 2024. We hope that it will still stand. But I would rather wait a few more weeks with a good working AI, with maybe some improvements for stability and visuals. Although I have to say the stability was really great in this game. I had a smooth frame rate. It never really dropped underneath like 70 or something. And the maximum was for me like 140. So tell me what you like about Homeworld 3. You saw a lot of gameplay right now behind me. And we'll see us for the next video, which will be about Starfield. So have a great time. Until then, bye-bye.
Enemy frigate. Move to engage.